Howdy folks, so I'm actually on my way back from the US. Just went to process some books. I have a new book that's come out, Women of the Future Volume 2, and it arrived at the warehouse on that side. But anyway, what I wanted to chat about today is it's amazing how some days things just kind of like go wrong for a number of reasons. Now I'm having one of those days today. So for a start, I had to go and mail out a whole bunch of books from the US, and I took everything. I took my tape, my knives, my labels. I had the labels printed. I had everything done. And as I passed through the border here, I remembered that I did not take the boxes that I needed to mail the stuff in. So half of the books I couldn't mail because I didn't have the boxes, which means I'm going to have to drive to the US again next week to go and get that done. Then I'm at the mailing house where I receive the stuff, and I asked them because I know somebody mailed me a check. Believe it or not, in the US, a lot of people still mail out checks, so they will send you a check by mail to pay you. It's mind-blowing. I mean, we haven't done that in South Africa in 20 years. Anyway, long story short, so I'm at the mail house and they go, well, here's your parcels. I'm like, didn't the check come through in the mail? They go, oh no, the mail service that you have does not include normal mail. It's only stuff that gets signed for. So it's only deliveries by UPS, FedEx, anything that gets signed for. It doesn't do mail. So I have that address as my mailing address on all my invoices that goes out to my US customers. So now I know at least of 2 checks already in the last month that was mailed to me. So I'm like, what the hell? What happens to the mail? They go, oh no, if it's mail, it just all goes into a big bin and it sits there in the back, and it's what it is. We don't, if you don't have a mailbox and you're paying for a mailbox, then we don't process the mail. So believe it or not, I don't even know how much money or how much checks or what all was mailed to me and never got to me because it's now sitting somewhere in that big bin. Luckily, the ladies at the mailbox or at the mail place are very nice. They're just very busy right now, but they said they will go through the mailing bin and check if they can find any of the checks. I mean, at least I know of 2 checks that came in the last month. It's $3,000 worth of checks that came in the last month. And those checks are now somewhere in that bin. But they said they will go and look for it and see if they can find it. And then I ended up having to pay now for a mailbox. So it went from $15 a year for mail receiving to $14 a month for mail receiving. So there you have it now. So now I need to pay extra to receive mail. And that freaking, all of the invoices went out and it's now got the wrong address on it because now I'm paying for mail. I got an actual mailbox address, so now it's a different address again. Oh my gosh. That could be an absolute disaster. So that means we need to now contact everybody. I was wondering because there's quite a few people that are overdue, and generally we don't have that many payments overdue. So it is now very likely, or at the very least, we don't know how many people mailed checks and the checks just got lost in the mail, actually physically got lost in the mail. Can you believe it? So that's not cool. That wasn't cool. But it is what it is. So we just got to deal with it, right? I'm going to just give the ladies a minute. They promised me that they will, in the next day or so, go through that big pile and see if they can find any mail for me. And if they can, that would be sensational. And if they can't, I'm going to have to go back to all of the clients and go, hey, sorry, did you maybe perhaps mail a check? Because if you did, can you cancel it and mail another one? So that's an enormous pain in the ass. But, you know, what do? Do what you got to do, right? And then, of course, just for the third time as the charm, I sent out the books that I could send out, and I thought, okay, I'll just chuck the rest in the car, drive through with them, and when I get to home, I'll put them in the boxes, and then next week when I go back, it's already packed and I can just mail them out, which is a clever plan. It's not a lot of books. It's only, I think, about 48 or so. It's not a lot. Then, of course, I drive through the Canadian border, find the friendliest border agent in the world. I mean, this dude is so friendly, big smile and everything. He's like, oh, where are you going? I'm like, well, I've went to pick up mail. He said, what is it? I'm like, oh, it's books. He says, what business are you in? I'm like, I'm a coffee table book publisher. The same thing I say every time. Now, I mean, I've been through that border with bootloads, carloads full of books, and I say the same thing every time. I've got these books, I'm driving them through, and I'm, blah, 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 same story. And normally it's a lot of books. This time it's just a couple of boxes. So the guy goes, what's the value of the books? I'm like, about $600. He says, but this book is not for personal use. I'm like, well, I mean, it's not like I'm going to sell them. I'm going to go package them and go mail them back off from the US. So he decides it's commercial goods and not personal goods. So he makes me pull in, and this is the first time ever that I had to go in there. So now I had to go into the commercial side at the Canadian border to go through the process to get the books into the country. Now, I mean, obviously, as I was standing there, I was just guessing. I was like, I think it's about $600 worth of books. Luckily, I had a very good guess, so that turned out pretty well. So I went in there. They send me into the first place. I show the guy the little yellow slip. I'm like, here you go. This is the situation. He's like, yeah, this is commercial goods. Go, but it's not here. You must go to the commercial side. So now I'm going across the lanes with the big trucks to the other side, to the commercial side. And then I'm there, and this guy is like, oh, I got to tell you this first. So you pull in, and there's lanes, and they go pull into lane 4 and then go into the building. So I get there, and there's this other very friendly lady standing there, guard, and she's like, yeah, let me see your slip, yellow slip. She's like, okay, yeah, don't go into lane 4 because there's a car blocking it. Park in lane 3 rather, because you are going to, is it your first time? Yeah. I'm like, yeah, it's my first time. She says, oh, you're going to be long. I'm like, oh my gosh. Now it all starts, because the thing is, when you go in there, they ask you about all of these, like your paperwork, and you need to have invoices and everything. None of the stuff which I have, because the invoice was actually made out to our US company, so it's not even for the Canadian company. So I'm like, oh my, here's another 2-3 hour little stint. And then luckily the last guy I get to, inside the commercial side, I walk up, I say to him, listen, mate, this is going to be an interesting one, because, it's not standard. It's not the normal thing. And he's like, okay, explain it to me. So I told him, I'm like, okay, I've published this book, I distributed it in the US, I drove through, I mailed it out, I had a bunch extra, I'm taking it home. I'm not selling them in Canada per se. I mean, there's 3 that I'm sending to some ladies in Canada, but I'm not selling them in Canada. What's the story? He said, okay, show me the invoice. So I showed him the invoice for the books for the US company. I pulled it up on my email, showed it to him. He's like, oh, okay, cool. You know what? Where's my stamp? Coop, you can go. So he stamped me, and there my luck changed. Suddenly there's this friendly oak, and he sends me out, and boom, all good. So here I am, back on my way to my house with the books in the car and the problem solved. I was just, I got to be honest, I was like not looking forward to trying to go through all of those paperwork, especially since I know that I don't even have the correct damn paperwork. I mean, I don't have paperwork to import the books commercially into Canada. I wasn't invoiced to a Canadian company. There's no payments from a Canadian company, so it was going to be an interesting one. But, it is what it is. No use dwelling on the past. I love it when stuff like this happens. So I had 3 bad lucks. I forgot the boxes. I realized that a lot of my checks might have gone missing in the mail actually gone missing in the mail because I had the wrong mailing service, and I got, for the first time ever, pulled out when going through the Canadian border and sent to the commercial side to go and explain about the books. So the nice thing about things like that is, the way that I see it is, if that happens, I believe that, you have quotas of good luck and bad luck. And I believe that, this like 3 shots of bad luck in a row probably means that there's going to be some real good luck coming up. So, yay! It's funny. It's so funny. It's like, I do get those days sometimes where I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to go get back into bed and sleep because look, this day stuff just doesn't want to go right. But then, you get like the friendly guy at the end and he's like, no, you're fine. Stamp it and go. It's funny, I got back out after the guy stamped me and said it's fine, I can go. I got back out and the friendly lady at the parking where I had to park, the one that said, oh, you're going to be a while. I come out and she goes, did he stamp you out? I'm like, yeah. She's like, oh, you're so lucky. I'm like, oh, thank God. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, people. You still get friendly, awesome people. Not that the guy that sent me in was an ass. I mean, he was actually the friendliest, nicest guy. He was just very specific. Makes you think about it. I mean, it's like every single time I cross the border in the US, going to the US or coming from the US, I mean, every time it's different. You would think that there's a very solid set of rules and regulations that people have to adhere to. But at the end of the day, you're just dealing with people, and it's the guy and his interpretation of the rules. And that's what rules at the end of the day. When I drove through to mail books from the US with the NFT yearbook, literally I went through there 5 or 6 times and every time it was different. Once I had to pay the commercial fee, once I had to, it's just every time was different. Weird. I suppose it's the way it goes with everything in life. It's the interpretation. We used to, when we did the Amazon business, we used to always Amazon, if you're an Amazon seller, it's one of the worst companies in the world if you're a seller. I mean, there are Amazon sellers that make a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but it's one of the worst companies in the world to deal with, especially on support, because in Amazon, the customer is always right and the seller is always wrong, and it's just extremely hard. So what happens is, the one day we had this hand wash Poppy Pigs, that's hand soap machines. We had this thing developed. It's a automated foam soap dispenser with a 20-second timer. So when you put the soap in your hand, you just have to wash until the thing goes beep, and then it's 20 seconds, and you're good to go. So it's really easy to to wash your hands the proper amount of time, and we thought during the pandemic that would be a good idea. So one day Amazon just rocks up and they decide to ban our thing, and they go, yeah, it's I don't know, it's dangerous or something. It's like it falls under some sort of controlled substance, but it's a freaking hand soap dispenser. Eventually it turned out the reason why it got classified as that was because in the small text we said you have to wash your hands for 20 seconds to kill germs, and that word kill, the kill germs part, that kill, made it a, I don't know, I can't remember what it's called, but it made it some controlled thing. So they shut down our listing and they don't want to turn it on. You need to now phone support and you need to do a course on selling controlled substances and everything. But what I actually wanted to tell you is that when you deal with the Amazon support, the only thing you do is you mail them or you speak to them. And if you see this guy doesn't have a clue, because they have these like standard answers that they give you. And if you see the guy doesn't have a clue, you put the phone down and you just phone again, because that's just what it is. You phone, and maybe in the next 10 or 15 times, or sometimes it takes longer, 20 times, sometimes you're lucky, within 5, you find somebody that understands what you're talking about, and that person can help you. And if you don't find that person, you're screwed. The other guys, they all just make you go in circles all around, and you will get no answer. So we actually learned that after a while, where it's just, you just, when you see this person you're dealing with doesn't actually understand the problem, you close the ticket and you open a new ticket, and you see if you can find a person that understands what you're dealing with. So yeah, I guess that's what I'm trying to say, is that it depends on the people. People go, what's the best bank? What's the best this? What's the best that? They all have people working there. And sometimes you find a friendly person and a capable person, and sometimes you find a not so friendly or a not so capable person, and it's just the way it is. And it doesn't even mean the person is unfriendly. You could just have a bad day. I suppose it is, eh? Anyway, but here we are, through the border. Everything's going fine. On the way back home to go and get these books in boxes, and then maybe next week, Monday, I will have to drive through again to the US to go and mail the rest of the damn books. What a day. I did go for a swim this morning though, so that was cool. And I am going to go for a swim tomorrow morning. All right, folks, I'm going to call this video here, and I'll speak to you again.